So this is the second reaction. Another one. Wherever the head goes, the body will follow. Because the body wants to alleviate the pressure on the neck. If I want to turn him, and I go like this, he will start turning his body because his neck is tensed. If he doesn't turn his body, I'll turn his head anyway. Because he doesn't know that. So he follows whatever I do with my hands. Okay, so these are some of the principles you need to know when you're doing Kincl or Kata. Because it helps you understand why this hand is here, why this hand is here. So this is one thing. Another thing, joints. These ones, not the ones that make you happy for half a day. They have a certain movement and we know which movement this is. So if I go against the movement, the joint breaks or his body follows to alleviate the pain. We can use this. Another principle, if I go with the movement, but then I take a slight detour, his body also follows because the pressure on his joints becomes too big or too great. So this is another principle you can use, or you have to use if you want to understand Kincl. Two more principles and then I'm done with the theory. One other thing, there's a guy called Iain Abernethy, he does a lot of this, and he uses the term, there is no dead hand in karate. That means that every time you do a technique, both hands are involved. I never, if I punch, if I do this hand has something to do. It's there for a reason. If I punch like this one is there for a reason. And it does one of three things. It either controls him, which we can see in Gyakuzuki, or Shuto. I control him, I pull him, and then I punch. This is the Gyakuzuki. You know this. We did this in training. If the distance is shorter, I grab him here, on the elbow. I control him, and then I hit. Same principle, different technique. This is one way. The second one, the second hand is showing me where the target is. He told you this during his applications with Impiuchi. If I hit him like this, he moves away, I can't hit him again. If he moves down, I have to look for his body and try to hit it with my elbow, which is hard. But there's a thing in our bodies, it's called proprioception. It tells you what the muscles are doing even if you don't see them. If you put your hand behind your back and extend two fingers, you know you extended two fingers, but you don't see. Because your muscles tell you the position of your body in space. So my body tells me where my hand is, and I have to be really retarded to miss my hand. So if he moves his head, and I am holding it, I will always hit it. I can close my eyes and I can hit him every time. So this is another principle of two hands. And the third one, both hands are doing something. This is with hyperextensions, joint manipulations. Both hands are involved in the technique. Soto, hyperextension. Get them down, hyperextension. The whole walk flow, always both hands are doing something. So when you look at Kincl now, try to imagine somebody standing between your hands. It's either his head, his leg, or his arm, or his body. So then the movement starts to make sense. And when you know how to apply this, you can then make it ugly and use it. Okay? One more thing I want to talk about is the stances. Nobody fights like this. You have to be a zombie, or you can be really into Karate Kid. Okay? That's the only reason you fight with a traditional stance. But there are functions in stances. They tell you where the technique is going. If I have a Zen Kutsudachi, the stance tells me that the weight, most of my weight is on my front leg. This means whichever technique I do from this stance is meant to go forward. So if I do Ageuke in this stance, it means go forward. It doesn't mean stand like this and go forward. That would be insane. It just says go forward. I can go forward like this. Same thing. But just the principle. Kokutsudachi, this one. If he pushes, I go back. I use the same principle. The stance tells me to go back. Neko ashidachi, go back and go down. This. You saw this in our kata. Okay? And then kimadachi, also go down. Whenever I have a technique in this stance, the stance tells me to go down. So if I catching like this, the stance tells me to move downward. Which brings me to the next application of stances. They can limit his motion. Kibadachi, for instance, same technique. I'm just standing there and my stance kicks in. Okay? There's another one he came up with. It's the double block. If I throw a left hook, you see? His stance alone is tripping me up. Then it makes sense to go like this. So give him a round of applause. This was a really good exercise. One more thing about stances, then you get to do something. It's like listen to me and swear. You know, in Kincl, when we turn, we always go like this. Okay? Again, this is not really lifelike. You never turn like this. You go down, oh, I forgot my keys. Wait. Again, they show you a principle. When you turn, you have to make a step big enough to allow you to remain stable. If I turn like this, which many people, by the way, do, my stance is off. If I try to make a step, I only make one. Okay? How can we apply this? If my back is to him and he grabs me, and if I turn like this, he just pushes and I fall. Okay? Because of my leg, which is even worse. You can't go home and say, I tripped myself. He just helped. Okay? So when he grabs me, I have to turn in a stable way. And then I can step again and use the same principle, movement forward. Okay, so these are all the things you can use when you do Kincl. Always imagine somebody before. Kata, same thing, slightly more complicated. Kincl is basic, it works just fine. Kata is slightly more advanced, but the same principles apply. For instance, one more thing. Kata and Kincl don't only teach you the technique, they teach you a principle. And if you then, Kata starts to get really interesting because it shows you principles. Hyperextension. We know this one, but this is a principle. It tells me if I have 2 points on his hand, I can make him go out or bend over. I can use this principle with any 2 points I like because this one taught me the principle, not only the technique. I can go like this, I can go like this, I can go like this, like this, like this, here, here, and forgive me for saying this, if my dick was long enough I could go like this. It doesn't matter. 2 points and hyperextension. Okay? So this is what Kata teaches. If we have time, I will show you some Kata applications later. For instance, if you take Kincl, which I like, this one. It shows you a lot of these principles. So, I block here. This one is hyperextension. His natural body reaction moves away, which exposes the lower part of his body. I can go in, he goes down again. Another principle, hyperextension. He goes up. Since he's up, I might as well help him down. And I do the turn from the kata, and I use both my hands. There, and I do a Edinburgh. That's it. Also principles. Okay, so now I think I've bored you enough. I want you to get up and go into pairs. And then we'll do some warm-up, short, and then we'll do some drills, okay? Good.